Welcome to another edition to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. Today, we got a little twist. We're still going to give our motivational quote, but a conversation came up a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to turn our Motivational Sunday show into a roundtable table talk. And we're going to be talking about AI and the puppet master, meaning Hollywood, and how it's affecting with the use of AI, its members of SAG and AFTRA, and the Actors Guild, and just human beings in general. So this episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is through the power of our story. We want to uplift and inspire and share experiences and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple. It's hope, helping other people every day. So we're going to open up this conversation. And first, for my listeners, you're probably asking, why are we talking about AI? Many of my closest friends on this platform today are actors and actresses, content creators, producers, writers, and so forth. All have been affected. And just curious to know how AI is going to affect them. So we're going to learn what is AI, why do we need it, and based on my understanding and the conversations we have regarding my friends in this industry, from what I understand, AI is supposed to be enhanced storytelling, supposed to increase the process and facilitate and make it more cost effective in order to produce the movies or the entertainment we enjoy on our appliances, our TVs, and even on the big screen. Now, however, my concern is for this, and this is the reason why I brought this roundtable together. Is AI going to displace job performance by human beings, or is it trying to make a better living for the people that are ahead of the studios, which I recognize as the puppet masters? Or will it somewhere down the road, AI will make the movie experience or entertainment strictly robotic and leave our actors and actresses working for minimum wage? So I'm just curious. So today's table talk will be deep, honest, and raw. So enjoy the ride. So Otis, I don't want to leave the show without us bringing a thought for you in our motivational quote. So if you don't mind, he is the voice of our show. Otis, would you mind with that sultry voice of giving today's quote before we start?
Certainly. You cannot see your reflection in boiling water. Similarly, you cannot see the truth in a state of anger. When the water's calm, clarity comes.
Clarity comes and clarity comes. And like I said, if you can teach the heart to love, you can see the world for what it is, for a better place for all of us. So with that said, Emmanuel, we had talked about the message of the truth with AI a couple of weeks ago, talking about this. Will you mind going ahead and explain to us the relationship between Hollywood, its actors, and AI from your seat?
Well, what I did is to try and kind of like help you guys to visualize it. If you want to give me the power to share the screen, it would make it a lot easier to use visuals to like put us in the same context, if that's okay.
No, let me do this for the simple fact we're listening to this on audio, so some people are driving or whatever, so we need to talk. This is not a PowerPoint presentation, so I need you to give pretty much the same conversation you had about when we talked about the difference in how we learned about when we used to do theater, what the conversation was with people that were theater actors when film came along, and how theater had to up its game in order to compete with movies, with films. And so AI, when we're looking at that conversation, is that if you look at the fact that more movies that we are watching now have more animation in it, so they're using live characters along with animated characters. And sooner or later, and this is just my thinking, that we're going to get programmed, or it's going to be so convenient that we're going to demand less as far as quality in the movie experience, and we're just going to be watching on these appliances the volume of television produced artificially. So that's the concern that we have right now. So if you can kind of reopen that door, take us down that path as far as how you interpret this and what the dangers of AI are, or even if there's benefits to AI. Because I do know I sent everyone a thing with AI and facial recognition. And what happens is because the content creators don't look like most of us, it is identifying people of color to be more criminals and so forth because the technology is not being tested on people that look like us. And so a guy by the name of Calvin Lawrence, I believe that's his name, said that we are using AI prematurely because we're not ready to use it because it still has some glitches. And we do know that AI is data driven, and whoever's supplying the data is driving the bus. So go ahead. Can we catch up on that and not have to use a
Okay,
visual?
sure, sure. So the first thing we have to do is we have to kind of like reframe our worldview a little bit because it does no justice to you or the listener to have a conversation about artificial intelligence. Because believe it or not, that's an oxymoron. And having a conversation about artificial intelligence just leads you down a path of like circular thinking where there's really nothing, there's nowhere to go except to worry and to think, to be amazed and to worry. Look what it can do. Oh, what will it do? Look what it can do. Oh, what will it do? That's how you end up going back and forth in a circle. So, what you really want to do is speak about the state of the art. And when you talk about the state of the art, you're talking about the state of the art of cybernetics. So, when we do that, we have to acknowledge the entire ecosystem and its potential right now, right? So, what we talk about generative AI or ChatGPT or transformer models that can create visuals from text or text from visuals and stuff like that. What we're essentially discussing is literally the power to harvest human traits, right? And to literally repackage them into something artificial, right? And so when you talk about AI, what you've done is you've cut out the source area, the human traits part. And once you've done that, you've kind of like already cut your own legs off, right? So you want to stay in the actual loop of the entire ecosystem. And so you want to acknowledge what the source capacity for this is. And that is your own data, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to acknowledge like what is this data that is so relevant right now? What is the difference between now versus like 20 years ago versus like 50 years ago, right? So now the data that's most relevant, especially for the entertainment sector and actors, is literally behavioral biometric data. That implies not only biometrics in terms of like the identity ecosystem. In other words, my face is a biometric kind of like it's a biometric modality. It's a biometric medium where like you can essentially recognize my face and just see that this is me. So that's a way of identifying who I am. You can do that with my thumbprint. You could even do it with like the way I walk, depending on like what camera you have and what kind of like data points you're essentially tracking. You can do that by my heart rate. You can determine that like this is the heart of that same person. So this is using biometrics as a way to identify who you are. That's one aspect. That's perhaps like a very important but very small aspect of the potential of machine prediction in our artificial intelligence for your sector. So in order to see the full potential with more clarity, you have to talk about behavioral biometric data and what that means. So when you're an actor, you're in Nicole Kidman or somebody who's like high end, and you contract with companies to essentially capture your likeness. What they're doing is not just capturing how you look on camera, they're capturing a propensity for performance, right? The to be or not to be of the whole thing, right? This kind of like unique thing, essence that's you, right? The thing that you've practiced your whole life, the thing that you put your heart in when you're performing it. And what's happening today is like you have the power to capture that. It's not that your face, it's not just your voice intonations, it's actually the pause in between, right? Like, why did I just stop right now? Right? That subtlety doesn't seem like nothing, right? But if you're directing a movie, that beat could make the entire difference. It could shift the entire scene, right? Today, machines, there's no way for machines to essentially create that, right? Like, so in order to essentially mimic that, you have to capture it from living beings, right? And so you have to capture a lot of it. And so when you give your consent for everyone to use your data in perpetuity, what you're essentially doing is giving them the power to take that data, manipulate it, and actually create this kind of like Gollum or Frankenstein engine that can do these subtle things that actually are very human, depending on their context, right? And so when I talk about the state of the art, and I think the last time I used the word singularity, when you're talking about the singularity of like artificial intelligence and cybernetics, and I thought Hollywood might be like the ground zero of that. That's what I'm talking about, right? Because right now we have all the technology to be able to recreate a photorealistic version of you. And that's perhaps acting exactly like you, but we can't get a machine to perform, right? Like machines don't do anything. It's like playing tennis with a wall, right? The wall isn't playing tennis, it's just there, right? So how do we get the wall to add style, right? The way we get the wall to add style is by your behavioral biometric data. And so when I say behavioral biometric data, I want you to think about everything from like how often you essentially like blink in like 10 seconds, you know, how much I'm moving my hands right now, the intonation of my voice, cadence, inflection, all these subtleties, right? These subtleties are what's the most valuable. And because there are only few people who are making like as much money as possible in acting, they present like, well, their likeness is important, their likeness is valuable because they're A-listers, right? But in the cybernetic ecology, where all of your data is being harvested because you can't, 50 A-listers cannot provide the affective data, in other words, affective responses, to essentially make characters dynamic in the cybernetic ecology the way they want it. You cannot create a kind of like a library of content, whether it be short form or long form, just by harvesting the data of like 100, 200 A-listers. Like even if there is even this, that, you need thousands of actors, right? You need thousands of actors and you need their performances in every different kind of context, right? All of that data becomes equal. Whoever does it becomes equal because Nicole Kidman's smile and you know, Jane Doe's, you know, tilt of the neck might be the thing in combination that sells like 10 million views on Netflix, right? So what you're so really you're we're in a position where especially your field, and that's just really about like the actors, the positions the actors are in, right? Because you are really right now you're a resource, right? Mining you for this data is a great resource because you know film technology or content can be be shown, right? I mean, there are shows on Netflix. I just saw the analytics the other day. You know, I've
Log him
never heard of
off.
these shows. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Lynette's log him off. He's got to go.
Um, so yeah, there was the Netflix analytics came out recently, and the shows that are like the highest number of views, nobody who knows what these shows are. Nobody notices. Nobody knows them, but they're watched, right? Because they have this kind of they have a kind of like all around appeal. How do you get that? You get that, but by the smallest little increments of information that give you that kind of like universality connection, right? Because the viewer, they want to just see themselves, right? They want to see something that's human. So one term that should be coming up a lot in you guys' discourses is the term hyper-personalization. And how hyper-personalization is going to be relevant to you is that the more hyper-personalization becomes relevant, the least relevant live actors are going to become. Why? Because what the studios have to do in order to keep making money the way they're making money is essentially to source your data so as to create the best potential for hyper-personalization to specific viewers. Because there's like two sets of data that are supremely important. there's a data that essentially the AI can help the studio gather in production, right? Your likeness, how to improve your performance through digital manipulation and all of that stuff. So all the data that has to do with the production itself, right? But now we're not in the 1950s or 60s anymore. We're in 2023. We're in literally a cybernetic ecology where somebody can literally have their movie theater on their phone for the rest of their lives. You don't need to go somewhere, right? And so that person becomes one viewer, one show, right? And so in that person's behavior, there's another AI system that's tracking that person's behavior, their preferences, and what they want to continue to consume. So the Netflix has the power to do that for every single one of their users, right? So Netflix is not just concerned about putting an A-lister in a movie. Netflix is concerned on how to essentially get the one viewer to keep watching. Because there might be 200 A-listers, but there might be 200 million viewers. So if you get like 10,000, you get 10,000 actors to provide the behavioral biometric data so that you can essentially mold these kind of artificial characters and artificial scenarios that resonate with the average user. Why do you need actors for if you can hyper-personalize? You see? Because the viewer is not necessarily interested in seeing Nicole Kidman or anybody else. They're interested in their own catharsis. So if you can cultivate design and literally push catharsis, it don't matter what you put on the screen for me, as long as you're doing it for me.
Wow.
So on the one end, you have like the power to essentially give them that resource to be able to do it that way. And then at the same time, you have the responsibility, having given them that resource, to consider the implications of that resource on viewers. That's another thing, right?
Now,
Because
let me ask you a question, and I'll throw it out to all of our co-hosts, and I'm going to ask Delphine this question. Does this concern any of you that are working actresses and actors in this business? That because to me it sounds like is that they pay you once and they get paid multiple times after the use of your image, and we're just kind of sooner or later that Manuel brought up 100 A-listers that are making multi-million dollars in film projects before long within time, and I would say normally I'm just guessing 5-10 years from now, the A-listers will no longer be making seven figures in their contracts, and they will be making what the day players and the extras will be making just in order to get something out of it. Miss Delphine?
YouTubers are going to be A-listers.
Yeah. Let me ask Miss Delphine, anything?
Yes, there is several aspects that Manuel highlighted, and I think one of the things I would like to add is, especially for Netflix, and because of the recommendation system and the AI they are using, it's really based on the like button, on what you will as a viewer, what you will want to see. But it's not necessary, especially when you jump into the hyper-personalization, it's not allowing you to explore anymore. It's kind of becoming a limitation to your exploration of other way of other form of arts, other topics, because you will be only, it's kind of really we already are in this world where it's an attention economy, so everybody's trying to get our attention, and we know that our attention is basically linked to what we will like or what will trigger us. So it's a pleasure fear principle. So basically we have those contents that are either really pleasurable or extremely cathartic in the fear and the horror. For me, what is really worrying is that when we are in the pleasure pain principle, and we are only existing in that. The problem is there's no really distance, and we are more prompt to addiction. And what we see on and it's really interesting what we see in Netflix, especially Netflix, but it also applies to the movie industry, is that we have those format. It's series, and series are extremely addictive. But in the movie, what is happening is that we have sequel of an original story. We have remake of original story, and this is extremely concerning because it shows that the viewers, they become lazy to engage in new characters or in new kind of stories. It's extremely extremely worrying, honestly. And I was I was I love to go to movie theater. I'm a big fan of the experience of movie theater. It's extremely important for me. Each time I have a little bit of time, that's what I do. And I went to see the movie from Kenneth Branagh, which was Death on the Nile, which was where Gal Gadot was acting, and there was kids next to me. And at the beginning of the movie, you saw the main character with the Belgian detective Hercule Poirot. He's in the World War, the First World War, and you saw black and white image of the war scene. And the kid next to me say, "Yeah, I know. There's Wonder Woman in this movie." She's playing in the movie, and if you remember the first Wonder Woman, there was obviously World War involved, and they had absolutely no understanding of what was happening on the screen. They were just trying to make sense of it in their existing, set of information and what they had been introduced to. And it's extremely it's really, really weird for me that there is no they expect to see the same kind of movie all the time. Obviously, I think they didn't like at all the movie. They were complaining there was not enough action, but they were expecting to see only action movie, and that the actors they see in that movie will always be the same kind of character. And it's this is how we are narrowing the perspective of our viewer, and we are feeding it. It's like a closed loop, and it's getting poorer and poorer. So yeah, this is extremely concerning. I don't see any good good result coming if we stay in this paradigm, if we keep on cultivating this pleasure principle. We don't serve obviously the culture. We don't serve the viewers, and we at the end we just get rid of any possibility for actors to experience creativity the way they should be able, because we will ask them to do only the same kind of stuff, and it's really sad. And when we go on the categorization of the profiling of the behavior of the viewers on platform, but on any kind of study, when we do big data analysis, we obviously we get rid of this random exploration. We get rid of those discoveries that are just happening. We are just reinforcing things we already know. This is really sad, really sad.
It is sad, and it sounds like we are substituting quality, meaning the deliverance of the human experience in the actors, because we all used to go to movies to have that movie experience to kind of escape away from our life, in order to have content based on volume and not necessarily on quality. But at the end of the day, it's for profit. I don't, I don't know how. I'm going to take this over to my friends that I know that are stage actors. Christopher, the battle that theater had when television and movies came into play. Are we re-experiencing that with AI, but on a much higher and more dangerous level when it comes to profit and profitability as far as participants and owners of the train? And then this is what I acknowledge as puppet master, Hollywood.
Exactly. If my wife and I have been looking at that a couple of different ways. If you were to look at, let's see, another avenue where you see a lot of portrayals or movies. If you take a look at the current market of gaming, computer gaming, in some of the cutscenes, there are some scenes that you would have to really look twice to notice that it's actually computer generated, not an actual film or an actual movie. And I've said a few times, at worst case, what we'll be seeing as far as the evolution of AI would be that sort of type of display where you've got basically a movie now done completely in a computer and generated to the point to where you really have a hard time discerning whether it's real live action or computer generated. And that's where I sort of mentally place myself, where the stage actors back at the dawn of film were saying, okay, these guys are taking pictures and making these pictures move. Okay, before long, that's going to be the sole, source of entertainment. Yet theater or stage continue to live, and they did that through simply beefing up or accentuating what stage could deliver that the movies couldn't. Now, Manuel talked about how certain small human detail is being grafted into these AIs to make them look or appear more human, with the blinking of the eye, the hand gestures. About a month ago, we had the beautiful experience of watching Chris Everett and her team, or her crew, perform a stage production. And it was in the round. We, within minutes, were completely caught up in what they were portraying on stage. And we left feeling that, we were part of that. Part of us died, part of us, went through all of that. That is what kept theater alive in today's land of movies, okay? It's going to take that same type of effort, that same type of digging deep inside and bringing out something that you can't get on a computer, you can't get on a screen, to keep live action alive. And what we sometimes overlook, and which is really a great source of power that we're just overlooking, when you take actors out of the equation of movie production, you eliminate catering, wardrobe, lighting. These are other strong unions or groups of people who are dependent upon movie production. Now, true, you'll probably get a whole lot more people working, who sit behind a screen punching keyboards, and they'll probably quadruple their employment. But the core production people in movies will be looking at, a dismal future, because once you eliminate the actors, you've eliminated the wardrobe, the hair and makeup, catering. Half of your production assistants will now just disappear. But that will be, the death of movies, live action, if we can't find the same fortitude, the same strength, the same knowledge of our art that stage found when movies first showed up.
Mm.
And if
Now-
we can't, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask Manny. Manny, listening to this, and you're being, what I call our Ed Hawkins of this science. Looking at this and the way that Christopher explained it, let's expand it a little bit. We no longer have to have a set designer because it could be created in a computer. We no longer have to hire a location manager because we can pick out of a library whatever data's in there. We no longer have to build sets, planes, or whatever case may be. We don't need wardrobe designers because we can do that all in a computer. I know SAG-AFTRA, they've just settled on this, and this was a big argument, but it looks like there was like a sleight of hands with the conversation as far as the contract. This is, let's wait the actors out till they get hungry and they get desperate, and we'll put anything on there. I remember a couple of weeks ago when the producer says final offer. And so what most people happen when they get the final offer, let's say this is the best it's going to get. Let's just sign it so we can get back to work. But I think looking at this from a layman's point of view, long term, is that there's not going to be a lot of work. Is there going to be any regulatory control over this, or do the producers go back to what they used to do, and basically you take what you can get to be a part of this? Manny, how do you see this?
So I want to just go back a little bit. Chris brought up to give you some perspective, because one thing we should definitely never forget, okay? The value of the art itself is not in reality diminishing. It's not. In reality, it's going to the stratosphere. The problem is, can you mine it? Because you can't mine it while the studios have the power they have. Okay. The question is, no. So now let's look at how you would essentially position yourself so as to be able to mine it for the future. Because as people get older, they're going to want to appreciate reality more. There's no question about that. But let's talk about like video games, for example. Chris brought up a cutscene, right? Cutscene, the graphics were beautiful. The AI was doing its thing. Everything was beautiful, right? But let's take a game like Fortnite, for example. Fortnite is free to play, right? Do you know what one of the biggest revenue sources on Fortnite is? Because they made $5.6 billion in 2021. Do you know what one of the most important revenue sources they sell in the game?
I have no idea.
Emotes.
What is that?
That's an emote.
The waving of the hands emotes. All right.
That's an emote. Think about that. That's an emote. So if you have someone who's averaging like 6 to 10 hours a week playing this game, they're like spending like 8 to 15, 20 minutes like shooting, running, doing silly shit. And then when they win, they emote.
Wow.
And they buy that to want to emote, right? Now, again, that's that unit of emote, right? This is what I'm taking. This is that priceless resource that we're talking about, right? Because one of the most popular emotes is like one of that guy from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He does that dance or whatever, and it's very popular. Carlton, yeah. So his dance is one of the most popular emotes, right? But that's just a silly dance, right? And so when you can take a data set, and let's say that data set is related to, okay, it falls in the category of emotional narrative catalyst, right? In other words, this is a data set of micro expressions that when applied to an avatar, a virtual avatar, will give it a sense of kind of like a lusty babe or something like Marilyn Monroe or something, right? Now, let's imagine that we go into that cutscene that Chris was talking about, right? And that cutscene is no longer just a movie happening. Now it's an interactive experience with this Marilyn Monroe character. How much do you think I would pay for that if I buy emotes every freaking day for 25 cents? I'm going to pay $10 a month to be on this game nonstop. Do you understand? So, like, the value of human performance in real time is going to skyrocket. But the job of organizing so as to essentially protect that space is going to be the actors' jobs alone, because studios are going to do it because they can sell emotes for 10 cents to 200 million people a month. So what they want to do is they want to harness everything that essentially contributes to what emotes do, which is push catharsis, right? Because once they get that data set, they can create these characters that are so powerful in terms of their power to engage the nervous system of youth, that the youth are not going to be interested in theater. Youth are not going to be interested in leaving their homes. They're going to subscribe to AI companionship. So again, the responsibility of the community of actors is not just to try and protect yourself, but to be aware of what it is your resource is that's going to be mined and how it's going to be used.
Now,
That gives you reason to protect your design space as it exists, your creativity space as it exists.
let me ask this of Chris Everett. Listening to Emmanuel explain this. Chris Everett, for those of you that have not got a chance to experience, is probably one of, on the East Coast, one of the strongest stage plays actress in the business. I'm going to tell you, when they were casting Color Purple, they missed one. She should have been in this movie. She is a star and people have missed her. But listening to this, that AI is going to take you out of the gift, that experience, you know, can AI honestly walk away after living with the character, you know, for 6 months, 12 months, whatever, and walk away and deliver a performance on stage that will leave not only the actor totally exhausted because they gave everything, but leave the audience breathless and in tears and feeling a certain kind of way? Chris, how does this make you feel as a performing actress? Chris Everett.
Yeah, thank you for that. This has been such an interesting conversation, and Christopher, I want to thank you for mentioning that particular play. It was called Break Break by Aaron Lurch. And I just want to speak to what the creative team, what the actor, all those people wanted to give to the audience was this experience of being in this space, that the being in this, it was a sci-fi live sci-fi. Like nobody's really doing that, right? So without all the lights and the flashy stuff, we were able to create this space where we brought the whole audience into this room and felt this, this constriction of being stuck in a place where, aliens are invading and we don't know, we don't have any place to go, and we're stuck in this room and we got to try to go sneak out and get food. And the fact that we were able to do that live, not, on a screen, and just like immersing yourself in a screen, which is, oh my gosh, look what I just did, right? You're actually blinded when you're in a screen like that, I I want to also speak to, someone mentioned addiction, how addicting this is, getting the emotes or getting that thing. As someone who I've gamed, I've been a gamer and had to actually stop doing it because of this, like I can't, I can't stop, right? One of the things that I noticed about that behavior was the time was just going by. It was just passing me by, and I was feeling things, but I was feeling like this tension, this, oh, I gotta, how, it it wasn't this range of emotions that you get to have when you have like a live experience. It was just tense, I gotta get it, tense, I gotta get it. And breaking away from tense, I gotta get it is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. So I have so appreciated this conversation. And as a you know a live performer, I don't know. It's hard to answer that question because I live to give what's in here to everybody who's participating. It's not just to take, right? And if I'm not able to like give that, then what happens to me, right?
And I agree, and that's the reason why we're having this conversation, because I personally, I think everyone that is on this podcast today is concerned with what happens to me as an actor, Chris as an actor, Otis as a voiceover and actor, Christopher and Gilda as an actor, a creator, Larnez, an actress, a writer, a poet, Denise, myself, and Manuel. Now, I will say this is brought up. There is a book, and I read this about 10 years ago by a guy by the name of Neon Elon or something like that. The book's called Hooked. It's how to build performing habits. Basically, he trained the industry, Amazon and everyone else, in order how to keep us like this. And now it's going over to AI. If you want to read that book and how to get unhooked, we have all been pre-programmed. Larnez, as a author, I know that my team that produces my product are young people, and they're all excited about AI. We tried to do one of my books, and I canned it because it wasn't the same quality of me writing a book. And the question that came back to me: do it over and over and over and over again. AI will adjust until it becomes you. And I'm going, I don't want any part of that. Larnez, you're a content creator and a writer and an author. Translate it, because one day one of your books are going to become a film. How do you feel about AI?
So AI is basically a mirrored reflection of human behavior, right? And we need to adapt it as the tool it is, but it's not a cap to our learning. It's not a cap. It's not the encyclopedia where you go to for all your information. And being that we're training our children this way because our parents learned this way. My mother used to sit in front of a radio to get her information. And then the TV came out. And then that's where they got their information. Yes, the library was still accessible. Yes, the encyclopedias were still going around. I don't want to age myself, where they go to the door and really, you want to buy this encyclopedia? We have a whole collection. You can start with A. We'll put you on a payment plan. People are not doing that now, right? When kids want to find out information, who do they go to? Google, right? Google has the answers. So to me, if you use AI as a tool and you understand, you still have to do your homework. This is not where all the answers are. You will be at the capacity to understand that AI is collapsing the information ecology for our kids because they don't know the difference. They don't. They grew up where I need to go to Google. They didn't grow up to their parents saying, hey, go get that book and figure it out. Their parents say, I don't know, Google it. We have to stop it. It's our behaviors. So if you don't slow down and actually teach yourself and your children how to deep dive and be a scientist with everything that they want to learn, they will never learn the tools to push forward in their highest potential in this cybernetic ecology that we live in.
That sounds like a great conversation, but most of us adults are not tech savvy. We're learning as we go along. You see more adults walking with their head down and not looking up at the stars, and don't say good morning or whatever because they're trying to catch up on the technology and they're hooked just like their kids. So how do we get unhooked? A couple of weeks ago, Denise had an opportunity. I saw a video that was sent to me of getting hair, makeup, and everything for her preparing to be in a movie. Is that we cannot duplicate that experience. And the end result is the whole process. Denise, when you hear this coming into this business and knowing that I can take your likeness and then re-record your voice with AI in several different countries and you never know and profit from it, does this bother you or concern you as a content creator?
Yeah, it does. Especially going back with Lanez was saying, I'm a teacher. So my students are not reading. They
Oh, they don't
just
even need
going.
you anymore. AI can show
Yeah,
up and
they
teach
just
your
looking
class.
for the summary. Go to Google, look for the summary of the book. My kids were growing up, they had to read 6 books every summer. They had to read the books. That was the deal with us. You don't read, you don't do something fun. And now the parents just give the kids, like they come to parent teacher conference, the kid has the phone playing YouTube. They looking at stuff like I could check my students' computers, and that's what they're looking for. AI. Like I can see what they're doing at home. They're going to YouTube, they're going to Google, and they're looking at the movies that have those kind of like the little videos. That's what I'm seeing my students. And instead of picking up a book, instead of thinking, it's like it's scary because it's like the new generation, like Lanessa, that's all they know. And for me, it was fun. It was my first time getting my makeup done, my hair. I had to take everything, even my nails. So acting and having those people there, like we did it 7 takes, and it was like the cameraman is going, they're counting, like, and it was fun. And I'm like, when they take that away, it's like, what else do you have? Like, how are you gonna show something like people that are passionate about? Because you telling a story, like there's a human story, and you're trying to like connect with people, like how people are going to connect with an AI. And like Lynette said, like it's good. Like for me, I like the pictures. Like when you put it and you ask for a picture, gives it to you. That's the part I like because the picture is so realistic. Like if you're looking for a picture for teaching too, like a lot of the teachers are using it. They just put it there and it comes up with the picture. But it's just it's scary. Like Delphine said, it's like it's scary. It's just like concerning because the new generation is not gonna see that. They're not gonna feel like go to a movie, go watch a movie. For me, I take myself on a date to just go watch a movie by myself. And it's like, what am I gonna be seeing? Am I gonna see actors on the screen, or is it just gonna be like computerized? Like how is that's gonna take the pleasure of just sitting there and just enjoy the movie and see people acting. Because when I act, I'm like, oh, that's a good actor. Oh no, they didn't do it right. And it's like sometimes people, everybody wants to go and act, and sometimes some of the musicians like their music they transitioning and after they act, and I'm like, just because you have a lot of money, it's not gonna be a good. But the people that's been doing it for so long and they know what they're doing, what's gonna happen? Like how I don't know. It's scary, and I'm concerned about that too. And the new generation is just gonna miss out on real talent and see somebody on screen.
See, and this is exactly the reason why I wanted to take our show, Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends, into a conversation that we have a much deeper conversation than just a quote. For our listeners, I want you to pay attention. These are real people, people that have lives, just like you and I. They get up, they go to the grocery store and whatever. But these are people that have committed to a art to allow you to escape from your own reality. And now for profit, your reality is being harvested for profit, but it's giving you less of that experience. If you listen to the sound of Denise's voice, when she said the experience she had from going to makeup and doing hair, if you look at the fact, when I talk about everyone has watched The Color Purple, but you have not seen an actor or an actress perform until you see it live by Chris Everett, Christopher or Gilda, or the voice of Otis Spencer. You have not experienced that. But I want everyone to understand and think about this. And this is the reason why I say education is not designed to make you comfortable. It's designed to make you think. The conversation that Emmanuel is bringing to us today, you've got to think about, are you being trained to enhance someone else's life? Or are you being trained and pre-programmed to take away from someone else's life that is trying to give you a better life? Now, with that said, this is something that can't be replicated or duplicated, but I know they're sooner or later are going to put people that do voiceovers out of business, because once I got you once, I can do it several different ways. Otis, the voice of our show, will you give us the quote today? Because I don't want people to walk away and not think about it, because this quote does tie in to the conversation we're having right now.
You cannot see your reflection in boiling water. Similarly, you cannot see the truth in a state of anger. When the waters are calm, clarity comes.
So to our listeners, I want you to listen to that voice. James L. Jones is only going to be one James L. Jones. All right. Vince Caroli is a personal friend of mine that was one of the top 10 voiceover actors. His voice is going to be duplicated and multiplied over and over, and he'll never see a dime from this. Look at Otis. This man has taken in children and raised them for his own, and he makes his living by performing for you. Sooner or later, that living, because it's convenient to you, when that little appliance is going to be taken away. All he has to do is record it one time, sign his signature. Otis, how does that make you feel?
Sure, you definitely don't want to lose your job, but I think, especially in a new contract, if they want to repeat your likeness or use it in another product or project, they have to pay you for it. So right now, I think we're somewhat safe. I think I even heard for principal actors, if they use their likeness in a project and that likeness speaks, even if your background, you now have to be upgraded to a principal character and get paid and get the residuals. So temporarily, yes, we have some protections there. We have to do a contract every 3 years. So what will happen in the next 3 years? What else would have changed in technology that now we're going to have to go out and fight for?
I am glad to hear that, because I was trying to get a copy of that contract so I can speak from the facts. I'm glad you clarified that for us. And I hopefully 3 years from now it gets better. Emmanuel, before we close out the show, listening to all of this, because I know my heart's been touched by listening to this. And I don't know if I want to give up my experience for profit for someone else. The long-term gain in my life is the human experience. I don't want to have my life or my entertainment pre-programmed. I mean, sure, I like the Marvel comic books. I know that big guy can't swim that fast, but the thing is, I can never replace any experience I've ever had from live theater. And I don't want to see AI live theater become, a screen on there and call it live again. So Emmanuel, do me a small favor, kind of wrap all of this up and give us at least hope, because I'm nervous. At least give us hope, give us some facts, something to leave our listener with a state of being from their heart versus in their head and based on convenience. I know it needs to be regulated, so hopefully that will happen. Emmanuel, what would you like to leave the audience with today?
So a couple of things. The last thing you just said, I hope it's going to be regulated. I hope it's going to be regulated. I hope that will happen. Well, we can vet this for 10 days to a year to 10 years. Guess what? The greatest chance it has to be regulated is you guys. You guys are the greatest chance it has to be regulated, because you guys' resource is literally the most potentially impactful considering the technology. That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you guys. On the one end, if you keep looking at, well, what's going to happen to the existing engine where I used to make money, you're going to feel hopeless, because they're not interested in your talent. They're interested in essentially commodification. what Chris said when she was describing her experience in theater, that is your power. That what you're gonna have right now is a complete. It's like music, right? Like music has gotten shorter over time. Why? The attention span gets lower, right? And they have just no. Don't have the power to be able to cultivate, right? Filmmaking, narrative design, and/or theater require deep, essentially deep temporal perception, deep cognitive horizon. They require an understanding of the evolution of emotional narratives. This is not existing in these games. These are literally, like she was talking about, these are like attention grabbers. So what you have to learn right now that the whole community of people in entertainment, actors specifically, it, you have to now really build more compassion to understand the implications of your work much further, much further. Because in reality, right now, theater is turning back to how it was in ancient Greece. It's turning back into an educational space. Because just being there is already kind of like, it's like going to college compared to like the content that you get online and on TV. It's like going to college. Just getting to the theater and just sitting there and waiting. It's like waiting for school to start. Because you've sat there, you've taken the time to be patient. You've completely transformed your cognitive state so as to now be able to endure emotional narratives that are much longer in bandwidth and in wavelength than you've had all the time. So your work, your talents are becoming priceless. But if you think they're going to be priceless in the existing engine of Hollywood, then you're wrong. They're going to be priceless to people who actually want to understand the depth of their spirit and how to cultivate deep emotional and or cognitive understanding of reality. They want to go and experience that. But the studio is not going to be interested in that because the studios want numbers. They don't want the quality. So your community now is literally being asked to be the heroes of the world. That's the truth. That's the truth. That's where the singularity is happening. I'm here because of that. I'm really telling you. I'm really asking you guys. I'm really asking you guys. I really look to spend as much time as possible with all of you to show you what intelligence simplification is, to show you how valuable your individual behavioral biometric data is as actors in terms of the impact. It's life course in terms of like what happens. Because you as a live person on a stage right now, there's nothing ever going to be more valuable to the future. But 99% of people will never get to know that you exist as long as you keep thinking that the only way to make money and to approach this art and to practice your art is through the studio system or through these people. You have an opportunity right now to create an entire whole new area that people can look to like, okay, I play these games all these days. I work all the time. All these AIs are on my phone 24 hours a day. I'm going to go sit in reality now for 3 hours. You know how priceless that is?
Priceless. Priceless. Well said. I'm going to ask our queen of our show, Gilda, one question. She is a person that she walks off, but she carries a very big stick. And normally she's going to give one answer to this. And if we get more out of it, we'll start a whole nother show. But Gilda, I'm going to ask you this. All right. Can we make AI do what we all do every single day and creating content? Can we make AI love acting and have people love us as actors?
I don't think so. I don't think
All right. See what you got hit over the head with, listeners, today? All right. She doesn't have to say a lot. Okay. And the fact is, you can't replace the human experience. You cannot replace human emotion. And you can't replace love for profit, because sometimes profit will destroy what you love.
Crazy.
But Kevin, I did want to just mention that the only excellent thing that came out of the pandemic, that it gave melanated people an opportunity to take over Broadway, right? And in that space, It was amazing seeing all these people that look like me on this stage and me getting a piece of them going to these shows. So I totally agree with Manuel. Now, if someone comes together, and I'm saying the actors, the melanated actors, come together and build a space, real actors show up, it's the secret sauce. It's the secret sauce.
And this is the one reason why I didn't stop recording after we fade to black, is for the simple fact, and the real message is here is independent films.
Yes.
We as people, we as a community need to start investing in independent films. I mean, Christopher, you said this 2 weeks ago when you talked about the difference between how theater had to step up when films came along. We have to take the industry in our own hands. All right. We're not going to beat AI. All right. We're not going to beat profit, the big money machine.
No, this
but
is
I
not
will,
the way to think about it. You've
huh?
already beat. There's no AI. There's no competition with AI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Competition
But
is with
Mhm.
numbers.
the competition is the people that's the reason why I listed it as the puppet masters, is the people think that they can pull your string and they can have you do whatever they want you to do because they're paying the bills. We have more opportunity to create a better profit stream and doing our own independent movies and having the quality of our film. I'm not saying don't use AI, because we can do Black Panther all day long, living in our neighborhood and whatever. We can have our superheroes, but the quality of the stories does not have to be dummied down. Just for the simple fact, I can take AI and take Denise's book or my book or Otis or anybody else and do my variation of it and create it. And it'll cost me $20 to do it versus me having to pay someone six figures to do the same thing. So that's where the power lies, is us taking control of the industry we want to take control over. You know,
And how do you do that?
Dr.
The question is how to do that.
It's education. Educate people and provide people the access to
You
be able to.
literally, the
Wait a
hero's
minute, let me
journey.
finish.
Remember the hero's journey? Sorry.
It's the same way that the playbook has already been done. When you go through the civil rights movement, the way Martin Luther King, they had the bus boycott. They had the other boycott when they stopped spending money in the people's stores. If you turned around and put your money back into and provided people an access in order to invest in the film and get a return on the investment, because most of us don't know that the average movie costs X amount of money, and when it hits the theater, it's got a profit line. Anything beyond that, your original investors get paid back the money, and it's strictly profit. That could happen to each and every last one of them. We don't have to have a $50 billion movie that costs you. You pay one actor $50 million. You can pay him a percentage of that royalty, pay him a salary for that, and let him earn on that movie like everyone else. And you'll have more actors working for the future of that movie and promoting that movie than you have paying once and he's gone. And if your community, if you had seven people that each put in, $10,000 into a movie, the average independent filmmaker can make a movie for under $200,000. Look at what Robin Williams and Mac Damon and those guys did. All right, they couldn't get a job, and what did they do?
They made their own movie.
Okay, and we can do that too. And believe it or not, I believe if we build it, it will come. There's enough internet streaming and whatever that we don't have to go to Netflix. We can create our own Hulu channels and own that, and we can charge a subscription fee. We know how to do the business. But the key thing is convincing everyone to work together for the end result that we all can have a better life. And that way we'll keep our art alive.
I'm waiting for Manuel's response.
Yeah, Manuel, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's on you.
He's got something. I'm looking at his head. He's got something in his head.
Look,
Let's hear it.
there's an opportunity here, and
Talk to us.
you have to put aside the economic lens for a second. If you come at everything through the economic lens, you won't get people's true intrinsic motivation. And their intrinsic motivation is going to stay with the existing paradigm, with the existing fire. It's like these moths to a fire.
I agree.
If you put on the economy, if you keep approaching what step to take through the economic lens, their intrinsic motivation is going to remain. Intrinsic motivation comes from a passion. There's a passion for something. How do you get people to recognize that they already have a passion for independent film, for theater? How do you get them to recognize that in this moment in time,
That's the reason why,
exploding?
and that's the reason why the last question I asked Gilda, love. You get people to love what they do. You get people to love what you guys are doing.
Let's, for a second, there's, again, acting, right? So I've always wanted to be a writer and director. So this is like really, I feel like I'm trying to direct here a little bit. But here's the thing, okay? Your community of actors, you're being called. The journey, the calling, right? You're being called here. There's a heroic path, okay? The people, the confidence that you want, the attention that you deserve is going to come if you answer the call. If you don't answer the call, then the 99% of people who have a phone are not going to be interested in your independent films or whatever. What are you going to give them to essentially gravitate to? You have to be their heroes. You see, Stallone and this kind of like fiction hero, and then the fiction hero makes the actor become the hero. That's done. Okay? Because now you can make something that's not a real person do fiction hero better than any real actor could ever be. So now the actor has to be a hero as a reality, real person, so that they want to go see what they can portray in real life. And so right now, the acting community itself is being called to be a hero. Literally, I'm here calling you to be a hero. I just literally spent the last 6 years talking to police officers, trying to get them to be the hero community to represent and defend the rights of every individual in America for the behavior biometric data. We are here discussing your behavior biometric data as a community and how it's going to be commoditized by the studios so they can sell it and essentially commodify it into whatever kind of product they can essentially make out of it to make more money. So you don't want that to impact your potential career revenue and your love of life. But at the same time, if you choose to defend that, then you become a hero to everyone else.
All right.
I'm going to end. To everyone else, I will walk to California to the theater to see you.
But doesn't this all come down to education? If you put this in the schools, starting from grammar school all the way through, you give them live theater, you do other things. So there's always a way around it.
There's a step right now. There's a step right from where we are right now. The minute you press leave on this conference, there's a first step. That first step is acknowledging the reality that's around you. You are no longer in an information ecology. Your nervous system is in a cybernetic ecology. The minute you acknowledge that, and the next time you talk to someone who's in the business and you remind them of that, you make them understand why that is so important to understand. Because we are sitting here right now. Europe just passed laws protecting their citizens against misuse of behavior biometric data. America has no laws with that. You can't. So the actors in Europe are kind of like protected by default. Let that sink in. Who's doing it for anyone in America? Nobody's listening to me. The police don't want to do it because they don't want to defend anybody other than the police community.
I tell you this, there's going to be 10,000 people that's going to listen to you right now, as soon as I release this. So thank you. And with that said, I'm going to... Okay. No, I thank all of you. Delphine, I hope you come back. Do you want to add something before we go?
Just create a label for, actors respecting, not actors, but to because you need to get rid of the studio for sure. Just create some organization, whatever it is, that me as a audience of movie, I know that you are sharing those values. I identify identify yourself as we are actors, we are living on our creativity, and we need to be in a system that allows us to be creative and to exercise our art. And it is human interaction. I mean, I would be the first one to subscribe to anything that is respecting the cognitive liberty of actors. I would be the first one, and I think I'm not alone. It is extremely your voice is important. Your voice is important.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing. Sorry, because again, I feel like this is truly important. We are trying to have a Blue Note event in February. We're still trying to find the exact date, but if you guys want to suggest who we can invite, who is an acting community, or yourselves, if you want to be on a panel, so we can talk about this live. That's a first step. Just being able to discuss it, so we can tell the world that it's to think about. If we could, I would let me know what kind of invitation I would need to give you guys to consider it, because this is very important. I know, but this is very important actually. Cheers.
All right. Well, so with that said, my grandfather always told me, when you get to a place, Chrissy, Everett, when you get to a place that you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. And with that said, he said, reach one, teach one. And
with that, we say fade to black.